Hi everyone, it's Bacha here from recordingstudio9.com and thanks for joining me again. This is part 2 of Room Acoustic Analysis video that I had done in the past. In part 1 I covered how to set up the reference microphone and pointed to the speakers, run Room EQ Wizard and come up with a graph that is a frequency response of the speakers. In part 2, I'm going to cover how we're going to use that graph and the information within it to let Room EQ Wizard give us frequency points for our parametric EQ with its frequency, gain or reduction, and the Q points. And we're going to use that data to enter into our equalizer, parametric equalizer, which is Equalizer APO, that will balance out to give a much flatter response to our speakers. So very briefly, I'm going to go through Room EQ Wizard again as a recap, and then I'm going to concentrate on Equalizer APO to control the audio output of your PC. In simple terms, even though I'm not going to go in too much detail because it is out of the scope of this video about Equalizer APO, I'm basically going to show you how we're going to use that software to control any audio going out into your sound card or your audio interface to your speakers that will equalize it every time, regardless of whether you are listening through your DAW when you're mixing and mastering, or where you're listening to Windows Media Player or iTunes. So in simple terms, your speakers are being equalized for this room, for those speakers, so that you can hear as flat response as possible, so that when you're mixing and mastering your song, you are assured to a certain degree that you have, flat response. So without any further ado, let's get on to my laptop and I'll show you how it's done. Well, you saw me there quickly go through setting up my reference level. I run Room EQ Wizard that actually created the pink noise, adjusted my volume of the speakers, and used my SPL meter on my iPhone to get the level up of the master volume to 75 dB. And then I enabled the microphone and adjusted the microphone input level until it read minus 18 dB from this distance of the speakers. Now this is not an ideal setup. I've only just quickly set up for you so you can actually see it in all action. So normally you would put the microphone in your sweet spot at sort of the ear level. That's what I would put it, either depending where you're sitting, either under the speakers or your ear level. I usually set it up so that my nose is pointing at it, because my nose is right in the middle of my ear. So that way I can just look at it. This is where I sit. This is the spot that I normally sit, and adjust it that way. But there's lots of information on how to set up the equilateral triangle on websites and YouTube as well. So, but for this purpose, it was only demonstration, or it's a quick setup. And we have our very high detailed graph of my Logitech speakers, which are basically a computer speakers. It's got 2 satellites and a subwoofer at the bottom. I thought I'll analyze and find out about those speakers, how good they are, and how much equalization we need to do to make it as flat as possible. But looking at the graph already, even in high detail, looks like it's pretty nice flat response. To get a better perspective of it, let's apply smoothing of 1/3 octave. And we're looking at 75 dB, thereabouts. So that blue line there, you can see it goes through, it's not bad. It's quite flat from all the way from about 90 Hertz and goes all the way to probably about 90 Hertz and goes all the way up to 7-8 kilohertz and dies down a bit later on. So it's not bad at all, response as it is. We only have few peaks that we need to take care of, a couple dips, and it should be really flat. Now the next thing we need to do is find out our EQ points. We click on EQ. Let me maximize that. At the top, our equalizer, I'm selecting the FBQ2496. That's at the same time, as a side note, I do have here the Behringer UltraCurve Pro DEQ2496, which is a hardware parametric equalizer as a rack unit, and it sits between my speakers and my audio interfaces through my patch bay. So I can patch that through any which way I want. If you don't know much about patch bays, I do have a video, and you can click right here and you can actually view about patch bays, which are very handy. But for this example, I'm not going to use my DEQ2496. Most home studios won't be using hardware because firstly they're a bit expensive, but there's always a cheaper way, and that's the whole idea of this video. I'm going to show you how you can have the same result by using a software, the Equalizer APO, on our PC or our laptop. But for getting the right data, I'm going to select the FBQ2496. As our target setting, we're going to select the full range, and we're going to make sure that it is 75 dB because that's the level we set the speakers at and adjusted the reference microphone for that level. Next we have the filter settings. I'm going to leave it from 50 Hertz to 20 kilohertz. Range, individual boost maximum 12 dB and flatness range of 3 dB. So basically we're going to have squash any peaks and bring up any of the dips to a 3 dB sort of range, so to get the flatness. I mean, you don't really want to go any further than that. You can go to 1 dB, but whether you're going to achieve it, not sure, or how much difference it's going to make. Usually 3 dB is good enough. And to get a graph, we click Match Response Target, and we'll let Room EQ Wizard to analyze it and optimize the Q settings. Okay, now the red is what our graph response from the speakers are. The blue line is what our target is. That's the ideal frequency response that we like to get. And when we add filters, so we're going to be using about 5 filters, EQ points, and that's to adjust the dips. As you can see, this blue bit here will actually bring down this peak, and this blue bit here will bring down this peak, where the orange and the red will bring up those dips, and the green one will bring down those peaks as well. And we should get predicted amount of this. So that red one is what we're gonna get after we apply those EQ points, those 5 EQ points. So from, let's just start again. So from this, we want to target that. So you can see the dips and peaks are quite high. By applying these filters, we're gonna have this result. Hope that makes sense. It's quite straightforward. And to get those filter points, we click on EQ filters. I'm just gonna sort it ascending. So these are our 5 points: 127 Hertz, 390 Hertz, 734 Hertz, 1.2 kilohertz, and 3.6 kilohertz. So those are our values that we need to put into Equalizer APO to balance everything out. Now I just have Equalizer APO configuration editor running. I'm just going to go briefly with it. If you need to know more about it, if you'd like to find out how it actually works, what option it has, you can visit their website and there's plenty of information there. But in this video, I'll be briefly showing you how we're going to use those EQ frequency points from our Room Equalization EQ Wizard into Equalizer APO. One of the few things when you run it is it will have multiple options available, and they're numbered 1, 2, 3, and they are processed in that order as well. You can enable, disable them by clicking on them for that function of the process to be turned on or bypassed. And you can remove anything that you don't need by clicking the minus button. I only have preamplification and our include file, and I just left example as is. So to get that information, let's go to Room EQ, open up our EQ points and look at our EQ filters. It's a good thing to have always on top, that way you have it in there. And with our Equalizer APO, enable the include file, configuration file, and click on the green arrow. This basically is listing parametric EQ points as peaking filters. So we just need to enter the information from the left to the right. So we have 127 Hertz, we already have that one here, and at minus 6 dB at Q of 333. So we can just do that. And next we have 390 Hertz. So let's add another one, peaking filter. And this one is at 3682 Hertz, minus 3.5 at 1.5 Q factor. And you will notice at the bottom here, that's the graph that we are actually applying to, equalization graph that we are applying to get the reverse of what the frequency response of the speakers are, so they will equalize, so you get a flat response. Once we've done, we can close it, so we can enable and disable it here. Later on, just have preamplification here available in case we need to do any preamplification, because we are adding some gain here and reducing. We do an audio sweep, we find out if the final result, we're going to make sure that it's the same volume when we apply equalization. So whether we need to add more gain or reduce gain, we can use this preamplification to do that. So now that we've done that, let's give it a try and see what result we're gonna get. So we go to Room EQ Wizard, we click measure. I've already calibrated that. So here we go. Let's check the levels. All good. Let's do the measurement. Okay, that's our new measurement with those EQ points applied. So let's do the graph 1/3 octave smoothing at about 75 Hertz. Here we go. That's much better response than the other one. So let's put them together. So that's the response we're getting now. From the red, we now have the green one, which reduced down this bit here to get it. That's our median lane there, 75 dB. So all this dip has been increased, and then it's pretty much the same later on. So all these peaks that we had, now they've been reduced as well. So let's compare that with our expected. So that's much closer than before. It's much flatter response than before. Of course, you can always go and reapply better targeting, so even these tiny dips and peaks, you can adjust them again, but I think I'm quite happy with it. Just to see that this Equalizer APO is working, I'm just going to turn it off again and do another measurement. Okay, just done another measurement, this time without the equalization. So we should have pretty much the same response as the first one. So let's overlay them. Sure enough, as you can see, the blue, that's our first one. That's the first one we had done. And then just this new one that we did, there's a tiny bit of difference there, but I think that's just the room fluctuations. It's exactly the same. So when we apply, this is what difference it makes. So equalization does actually work. So we can now turn it on, and if we need a little bit of amplification, we certainly can probably add about maybe 3 dB. Let's do another measurement, this time having 3 dB preamplification. Now this time we have the purple. As you can see, the purple now has 3 dB more, but it has the same graph and might be more closer to that. So that sounds much better, more balanced. So we've got better response at about there. So that's our final equalized output of those speakers. Well, that pretty much concludes the room acoustic analysis and applying equalization to get a flatter response from your speaker for your particular room. By applying room equalization to your speakers, you are assured to a certain degree that what you're hearing from your speakers is as flat as possible. So your mix down and your mastering, won't sound too boomy, won't sound too bright because it's already adjusted. There are other systems available, including I think the ARC, if I can remember, where it has a microphone that does all the guide you through the audio sweeping and setting it up and having EQ points, and you import that VST plugin into your DAW and it will adjust the points. But you have to remember to disable it before you export your master mix. I mean, at the same time, if you want to, if you're running on Mac platform or your Windows doesn't support for some reason the Equalizer APO, you can use a VST plugin as a parametric equalizer. You can still use those data or frequency points, the gain reduction or and Q points to apply to your master bus at the end of the chain to get the same result, but you have to remember to always disable it again before you export your master mix. By using Equalizer APO, you really don't have to worry about that. I hope this video and the two-part series was helpful for you to get a better result of your songs, mixing and mastering. If you do like it, give me the thumbs up. I love getting thumbs up. That way I know that it was helpful for you. And if you have any comments regard to this video, if anything which is not clear, I know I ran through quite fast through it. If you have any comments, any questions about it, just write below the comment. I'm more than happy to answer them for you, to clarify anything that I have missed. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you are kept up to date with any new video that I upload. You can also visit my website, recordingstudio9.com. There's a whole heap more information there, as well as download resources, links, as well as the links for the Room EQ Wizard and Equalizer APO for you to download. Feel free to become a member there, part of my website. Membership is free. It will open up more resources for you, including Project Unplugged. And until next time, I hope you have a great time making more music, and from now on, even better sounding one. Cheerio. Bye-bye.